Shalom Aleichem and a good morning to everybody in person, online, and B'siyatid Shmaya, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, we should be able to share some wisdom that's going to upgrade our lives, deepen our ability to return to what it is to be at Tzelem Elokim, deepen our ability to live well, Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach, to live well, to live wholesomely, to wake up and constantly remind ourselves to wake up, to integrate and to thrive, really to live well. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. I just want to start the way we typically start, and that is this journey of changing and transitioning, having the ability to change and transition. What does it mean to change and transition? The ability to change and transition is recognizing that in the world of change, which is to do with the outside, things happen. Things happen. There's change in the world. From day to day, change is occurring. This is normal. This is the way the world works. Change occurs. But then we've got this internal world of transitioning, this internal world of recognizing that we have our thoughts, our feelings, our physical sensations, and what we want to create and foster a relationship with is the fact that there's a reality that my internal world may not always be up to date with my external world. My external world may not be up to date with my internal world. So the way we can start to create more of a connection, kapshutai, that we could be more aligned, is recognizing that there is an outside world of things, there's an outside world of events, but then I've got my internal world of my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations, and all we have to do to start the journey of alignment is take a breath and become present, and just notice what's going on within. Just notice what's going on within. Just noticing that there's a present moment and where I am in this present moment. What we will hopefully, B'li Be'ezras Hashem, come to recognize today, at least cerebrally, is there's a present moment and there is the now. You can't get to the now. You can't get to the now without the present moment. You can't bypass the nefesh. The nefesh is either going to fight against you or it will help you. The more that we foster and become masterful to becoming Baalei Das, the greater ability we have in order to enter the now through the gateway of the present moment. So just to stop, just to take a breath, to become present. And we can ask ourselves, what am I physically sensing right now in the present moment? Lahabit, habata, to observe. What am I physically sensing right now in the present moment? The temperature, just noticing how my body is positioned right now, noticing how different surfaces meet. And we could shift in just to become aware to the best of our ability in a gentle manner. We don't have to fight and influence and manipulate. What feelings am I feeling right now? And just noticing them and becoming aware of them non-judgmentally to the best of our ability. As we mentioned, at times maybe we have to label them, and that's okay as well. Maybe we have to label, this belongs in the past or this belongs in the future. Just to give yourself some orientation and permission to validate the nefesh. And we can ask, what thoughts are coming up right now, if any, imagery or internal sounds? And just to realize that that is there for us. It's interesting, I was talking to a Talmud Chacham a few days ago, and I showed this Talmud Chacham, the Gemara in Kedushin, that Limud HaTorah is meant to take you to Das. So Limud HaTorah takes you to Das if you know how to learn properly. And for so many, Limud HaTorah is a cerebral exercise. And this Talmud Chacham, he's got Kailalim, he's been studying Talmud, he's a Talmud of Gedolei Torah, Rav Shach and others, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. And it's interesting because that little knetch of transitioning and just becoming more centered is so what's needed. And for years and years he's been learning, and he never realized that Limud HaTorah is a portal to get to a state of das. And that's why, for example, that's why in the world of Chassidus, if you look by the Noam Elimelech and you look by others, there was an emphasis in order to work on aligning yourself to reach a state of Devekus before learning. What is that state? It's a state of Das. Just take a moment to just recognize where I am right now, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are it. That takes me out of my nefesh, brings me up, it elevates me slightly, it amplifies me. So this Nakuda is a very, very important Nakuda, and we need to repeat it time and time again because we forget, and we see so many people in the world today are struggling. And I'm making assumption here that people can struggle less if they know this. That's my assumption. And the Nakuda, as we have said, the way that change occurs is through repetition. We learn an idea and we talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. We practice it and practice it. And the more we talk about it and practice it, and really it's about commitment. It's about commitment and turning up. That's what it is, commitment and turning up. It doesn't matter what's going on. You commit and turn up. That's when the magic occurs. It's not difficult, it's different, and it does take effort. It takes effort. I was speaking to a Yid, and we have chaburas, and he wants to get into one of the chaburas for a long time. And I said to him, I would love to get you into a chabura. The Nakuda is that the shita by the chaburas is that you have to know someone consistently for 6 months. There's various different chaburas. He wants the longer term chabur. You have to know somebody for 6 months. If you don't turn up, there's no place at the table for you. Not because it's gatekeeping, it's because there's trust. Trust only works when you turn up. Trust only works when you turn up. Honesty only works when you are honest. And if somebody doesn't turn up, there's not trust. If somebody is not honest, it's very difficult. And the work that we're speaking about is a work of turning up. And that's why we go over it again. And if you get bored by it, good. If you get bored by it and you're not living it, something's wrong. Get bored. So this nakuda of hearing the information time and time again and taking that breath time and time again, this is a fight against Amalek. Amalek wants us to forget. Amalek will do everything and anything it can in order to create a thickness of the nefesh, to create a reality where ruach falls into nefesh, to take us back to the days of just after Adam and Chava ate from the tree. We want to bring the ruach out of the nefesh, so it's in between the neshama and the nefesh. That is the alignment that we want. That is where we want officially to start. That we want to start in a place where there is an alignment between the neshama, the ruach, and the nefesh. The neshama, so to speak, is at the top, the ruach is in the middle, and then the ruach, the nefesh, is under that. So the light, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's light, can shine through the neshama into the ruach, from the ruach into the nefesh. And the nefesh can absorb that nutrition. And what does the das do? As we said, the das negotiates. The das creates that connection. I'm looking up and I'm receiving the baskoil. I'm hearing the baskoil. I'm listening to Hashem's divine wisdom. And then I'm drawing it down into me. I'm drawing it down into the lower me, the nefesh bahami. And eventually. And I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and it was very interesting. He's got a shalom bayis issue, and he came this morning, him and his wife, we were speaking, and he said something very interesting which startled me. He said to me, or he said actually to his wife, that if you don't have the ability to connect to me and to speak to me, then the reality is maybe you weren't ready to get married. And I looked at him, I said, okay, I didn't realize you're such an idiot. I didn't realize you're such an idiot. Here's a wife, she's dealing with her nudnik husband, she's dealing with her children, she's dealing with the house, and this is what the wife has to say, because the husband is a selfish so-and-so and wants to connect in this particular way. And I've known this couple for a long time. It's sad, it's a reality check. You saying this to your wife? Rabbeinu Shalom, you're nuts. And you think you're a baldas, even more crazy, shakran. And the Nakuda is people are busy. People are busy. People are busy. People are in a situation where there's ebbs and flows to life, and we have to see and hear each other. And after I shared this with him, he stopped for a minute and he realized, maybe I'm wrong. Let me think about it. I said, you think about it. This is my assessment. This is my judgment, my understanding of the matzav, and go think about it. Maybe I was harsh in calling you, an idiot. Okay, could be. Efsha. Maybe I wasn't. I don't know. You go think about it, and you let me know, because we get caught up in ourselves, and we need something from the outside to open us up. And if I didn't know this couple, obviously I wouldn't have done that. But I've known this couple for a long time. So Nakuda is that Amalek want to make thick the nefesh. Amalek want to make thick the nefesh. Good morning. Amalek want to create a reality where our nefesh is thick. That means that I'm not transparent. As we mentioned, before Chet Adam, there was a perfect alignment of neshama, ruach, and nefesh. That means there was a transparency. That Adam could see within Adam, Chava could see within Chava, Adam can see within Chava, and Chava could see within Adam. And after Chet Adam, when our consciousness falls into the lower consciousness, using the Lashon HaKodesh terms, when the ruach falls into the nefesh, there's a thickness. So now I can't see within myself, and for sure I can't see within the other. So I have to work ever so hard to slow down, to recognize the fact that I for sure could be relating to my ego in the present moment and I'm not seeing you. That transparency doesn't exist today unless we're guided back into alignment. And when we spoke this through with this couple, he realized, I have to think about this because probably I'm wrong. If you're telling me I'm wrong and my wife is telling me I'm wrong, but obviously you're going to tell me I need to think about it and own it, which is a deep truth. You have to think about it and own it. But this woman is dealing with so much, and it's just been a war, and she has to work, and she can't give her husband the time that he wants, and it's a difficult matzav. It's not forever though. It's not forever, and there's an ebb and flow. We all change. But again, expectations and assumptions based on the fact of change and transitioning, there's an external change. But inside, am I viewing the situation like I'm 10 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, where now actually in the physical form, in this incarnation, I'm 40 years old? Inside, in my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations, how am I relating? Where am I relating? What age am I relating to the situation from? So this change and transitioning is very, very, very important. Having the ability to know at least this exists and to cultivate an internal maturing takes guts. You have to be courageous. But the work is not necessarily so difficult, as in difficult. It takes effort and it takes time. But the more that we open up and the more that we listen and allow the words to wash over us by turning up and by listening, by being committed, then a magic takes place because it's a natural wisdom. It's a chokhmah tiv'i, it's a natural wisdom. So, Be'ezras Hashem, we will share time and time again. And again, we're moving out of this kuntrus soon, so when we move on to the second kuntrus, Be'ezras Hashem, it's going to be a slightly different message. I need that because it's got notes in. Same with that, sorry. Okay, apologize. So being present should be our starting place. This nakuda of being present should be our starting place is really one of the first halachas in the Shulchan Aruch, Shavisi Hashem lenegdi tamid, which we'll come to explain. Being present. Again, when we're speaking about the nefesh, we're speaking about our memories, we're speaking about the past and future. And when we're speaking about alignment of neshama, ruach, and nefesh, the neshama, ruach, and nefesh is an alignment and it's being present. So we've got this vertical and we've got this horizontal line. And we are to respect both. We're to respect the nefesh and we're to respect the alignment of naran, neshama, ruach, and nefesh. That means I'm to respect the fact that I have a past. And obviously, Be'ezras Hashem, Be'ezras Hashem, B'siyata D'Shmaya, a very good, long, bright, healthy, good future. And to realize that I've got a present moment experience as well. There's a present moment experience as well. Now, our starting place should be, as Balei Das, Balas Das, our starting place should be the present moment. Because the present moment allows me to judge the situation in front of me, hopefully to the best of my ability, with as less internal interpretation as possible. So what does that mean? So if a person is not present, when I see a situation, I'm going to judge the situation. All my judgments are going to come up. And sometimes I can be aware, we know these teachings and we still fall prey to this in an unhealthy way. When we train and make the nefesh our best friend, then typically our nefesh will actually help us in this endeavor of judging the situation positively. And what we are sharing here is that when we hear these words, when we see a situation, we're very quick to judge the situation. Now, depending on the quality of our beliefs and our paradigms, is the quality of how we judge the situation. So if I see, for example, one moshel that comes up, thank you nefesh, this is what the nefesh does. Just reminded me of a moshel that I wrote in one of the books. So what's the moshel? The moshel is an individual walks onto the street, off the bus, and sees a whole commotion, crowd of people, and there's a little gap, and in that gap he sees a man in a t-shirt and jeans wearing a baseball cap, and he's got a blade to someone's throat. So what happens? He runs over because he's an off-duty police officer. He runs over and he's ready to pounce the person. He's ready to pounce, and he shouts, "Stop, stop, police!" Two people pull this individual back, who's an off-duty police officer. And he says, "Why are you pulling me back? Get off him! I need to stop this!" And one of the guys said, No. This man is a doctor, and this person just collapsed on the floor. He's a surgeon, and he needs to do something to help him. This person just collapsed on the floor. He's this individual's son. Within a moment or two, the person who is this off-duty police officer gets to his senses. Oh, wow. Now, think about it for a moment. What would you do? What would you do? What would you have done? This reality is a reality check. This off-duty police officer gets off the bus, witnesses this whole scene, and his job is to do with crime. He has a paradigm, so he jumps into action. That's what he's trained for. And yet, you've got this off-duty doctor, this surgeon, who's saving this person's life. So I'm always relating to my expectations and assumptions. Now, the truth is, was that police officer right or wrong? He was probably right for doing what he was doing. He was even more right when he heard what happened, then he pulled back and calmed down. Okay, life isn't always as extreme as that, but to function from being present and getting into a state of being present allows you to foster the ability to actually ask yourself, what do I want to do now? How do I want to relate to the situation now? And what's going to get into the way? Only the three things that we've spoken about the whole time in the nefesh, our thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. The internal narrative, the internal story is going to take us into on a direction. That's what's going to get in the way. So our starting place is presence. And if we can learn to foster, and again, it's not difficult, it's different, and it takes effort. But if we could learn to become present just by breath or feeling the ground under our feet, whatever we use to do it, already just by doing that, it's going to help us. And this is, as we said right at the beginning, derech eretz. This is derech eretz kadmul Torah. This is how we should be functioning. Tzelem Elokim is derech eretz. According to the Grand Ramchal, Tzelem Elokim, being in Tzelem Elokim, is derech eretz, and Adam. And we spoke about how the nefesh is the nefesh bahami. That is relating to my urges. That's relating without thinking, without observing my internal experiences in the present moment. Adam is where I can be present. B'nai Adam, the humanoid, the human being, the human species, we're meant to be a conscious set of people, group of people. It's how we're meant to be functioning. So when we could learn to shift from the ruach being stuck in the nefesh, and we can help elevate the ruach above the nefesh, and we can start that healthy conversation and be present. Oh, look, this is what I'm feeling right now, but I know that that person's not like that. So maybe there's a backstory that I need to investigate to become aware of. Instead of saying, why did you say something like that? You can say, is everything okay? That's unusual. Is everything okay? Are you okay? Or if a person is toxic, you can have healthy untanglement. You can separate in a healthy way if it needs to be, depending on what the situation is. However, the entanglement, the merging, the blurring of boundaries are far less when we are conscious and we can act upon that consciousness, because we do that check-in. We have people around us, the community, that can hold us and guide us. Being present should be our starting place. Okay. If we are always relating to the present moment through our modes of existence, can we ever truly experience reality as it is unfiltered? So again, what we have said, the filter is our thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. The filters are coming from the nefesh. Can we truly experience reality unfiltered? It seems to be we cannot, and that the closest humanity can ever come to succeeding is what Moshe Rabbeinu accomplished. In comparing Moshe Rabbeinu's level of prophecy to all other prophets, the Rambam states in the 7th fundamental of faith that no prophet will ever surpass Moshe. His unique prophetic greatness was his ability to view Hashem panim el panim, with an aspa claria me'ira, a clear lens of perception. No other prophet reached this level, meaning that no one before or since has ever seen reality unfiltered, unadulterated by their physical sensations, emotions, or thoughts. Seeing the world through these filters is referred to aspa claria shelo me'ira, lenses that are not clear. So an aspa claria sheme'ira, an aspa claria shelo me'ira, on one dimension, there's a number of different descriptions to what this is, but on one dimension, that is, I'm always relating to reality through my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. I'm always relating to reality through my belief structures, my constructs of perception. That's how life is. It's a fact. And I can't become like Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu, he was gifted that for some reason, Hashem deemed it fit that his nevuah, his prophecy, was on a level where it was aspa claria sheme'ira. For everybody else, it's always going to be aspa claria she'eno me'ira. We're always going to be perceiving through filters of thinking. So what we can do is work on ourselves. We could build ourselves. We can be metaher our thinking, our machshava. We can be metaher our midas. And when we cultivate strong, healthy beliefs, when we upgrade our beliefs, making our beliefs healthier and better and more wholesome, so what happens is the way I look at this world is going to be better. And this is a yisaid in avodas Hashem. So if a person was brought up and they constantly were told, you can't trust people, don't trust people, don't trust people. So as they mature and grow up, so what's going to happen is they're going to be in a situation where they don't trust people. Now, how good is that going to be for us in our life? Well, there's times, obviously, not to trust, but majority of the time, people are nice. I was brought up in a home where people are good people. Everybody is pretty much good people. Where I lived in England, pretty much everyone's good people. And I grew up and I haven't experienced so many bad people. There's a belief, and that belief is the filter in which you experience this world. I've seen people who are miserable so-and-sos because they are constantly criticizing and cynical, and they don't live so happy. You need the midah of criticism and you need the midah of cynicism in the right place, at the right time. And what we want to understand is these filters are really important. I remember there was a Yid who we were helping. It was very, very difficult. He believed everything is MS, always MS. Everything has to be MS and mishpat and mamash. That's how he functioned. He ended up getting divorced. He's got mamash hardly any friends because everything is MS and mishpat. He'll always call people out. And I explained to him that the nakuda of shalom, we shared this, the nakuda of shalom is the process. You can only have any sort of MS if you've got shalom. If you don't have shalom, shalom is the process. Shalom is the integrative process. It's the context. Only when you have context can you have MS in a particular area. And again, there's people speak about truth. I don't know what truth is. You know, we don't have truth. We have our own dalad amais truth, or maybe a truth in a family or a community, but that's basically it. The nakuda of shalom is really important. The integration, having the ability to be on the journey where I'm present and I'm aware of context. It's an amazing thing. When I'm not aware of context, I fall prey to MS, and MS can be very destructive. That's when I'm not in the present moment. Typically in the present moment, I actually biologically and psychologically be more aware of all the parts integrating in that moment. When a person's not in the present moment and they are stuck in their thinking, they're making these judgment calls, which a lot of the time could be quite inaccurate. And all we're saying is that I'm not Moshe Rabbeinu, you are not Moshe Rabbeinu, we're not Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't have an aspaklaria shemeira. I only can function with the tools that I have. That's it. I've got a certain set of tools, and we've gone through that. I'm always relating to life through my thinking, feelings, and physical sensations. I can upgrade that, and I can become more conscious, and I can ask the questions in order to reorientate my observation, the way I'm observing something. So I can say, okay, how am I now perceiving the situation? Is it helpful? Is it not helpful? Well, if I'm going to give in to my nefesh, to that part of my nefesh, which, as we quoted, actually maybe we didn't quote this, but in the Gra, in Yeshayahu, in the 11th Perek, we speak about how the nefesh abami has many different branches, many different parts. There's parts within parts within parts within parts. So what happens is, I could become present, I could do that check-in. Okay, that person's saying something not nice to me. So I can fight back, and if I fight back, where's it going to take me? So that side of me, that part within me wants to protect myself, to feel safe, secure, and certain. But the truth is, they're probably a good guy, a good girl who's having a hard day. So maybe I can pivot. Okay, nefesh, let's go into a more mature part. What would you do? Ask if they're okay. Ask if anything has happened to lead them up to this. Maybe you can help them. Maybe you could be of service. And you ask that question. And then the person, sorry, I've just had a crazy day. And a lot of the time it's like that. A lot of the time we're in situations where, this is what, by the way, sinas chinam is. Sinas chinam is where there's a particular momentary experience, and then that momentary experience overflows in all of these other pockets of experience. So when you meet somebody and it's not going well, it could be that it's not personal whatsoever, and it's actually got to do with several hours ago where they had a run-in with something, and change and transitioning, they didn't transition. And they're still thinking about it, they're still in it. And what happens? They spewed it up on you. So when you know how we work, because as we mentioned last week, all human beings work the same way. We all work the same way. When you know we all have the same machinery, we're all relating to reality the same way. The human mechanistic elements of experience is simple. The way the human being works is really, really, really simple. I'm always relating to my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations in the present moment, and I always can have available to me insight, which we call the baskol. And if I'm a balo balastas and I'm aware, I can receive that insight, it just drops in, and I could live well. So the human mechanism, I could become a master over my own machinery. I could become the mechanic over my own machinery. All of that's easy. We, through repetition and through having that language where we are working on understanding the language and then connecting it, at least here, to an experience, or battling over it, struggling over it to try and make sense of it. What is complicated? The actual experience. The actual in-moment experience is very, very complicated. I don't know if something's true or not true. Like we mentioned a few months ago, people very much, you have to trust your gut, trust your gut. What happens if your gut is very, very immature and you're trusting a part within you that actually you shouldn't be trusting? So the healing process is having the ability to question what's going on, to have the availability to become aware. Look, okay, I'm present in the moment. I potentially can do this. What's come up right now? Whatever it may be. But actually, is that an immature reaction from when I was a kid and I was bullied or something? Or is actually that truth? And as you mature, as you become more conscious, you can actually experience a qualitative difference between the different parts within you and the cultivation of where it's coming from, that you can actually learn to trust your gut. There's a natural healing process, returning to what it is to be Tzelem Elokim. Chochma Tiv'i. And the fact I can learn to become aware and to check in the present moment, outside hopefully of conflict, but there shouldn't be any conflict. But when times are good or not good, whatever it may be, where's the Yetzer Hara when everything is good? In the yard pumping iron, in the yard doing weights, and the Nakuda is for us, where are we when things are doing good? So there's no Bechira when you're in the momentary fight. There's no Bechira. There's Bechira beforehand and afterwards. The more that you train and the more that you hear these messages, you evolve. You evolve, and the starting place is being present. Feeling the ground, and just becoming aware. If you are walking in the street, if you are washing the dishes, if you're driving in the car, Das Tachtoin Chitzoni, just becoming aware of your spatial awareness, and Das Tachtoin Pnimi, being aware of what's going on inside. And to say it 1,000,000 times is not enough. Amalek's avodah is to make us forget. And when we forget and we become trapped within our own expectations and assumptions, typically because the nefesh, as the cheshbon hanefesh shares with us, is very, very young. The nefesh bahami is the maturity of a 5 to 7 year old. So typically, if somebody takes a 5-year-old's toy away, they switch on. Give me back my toy right now! Like, what are you dead? I'll kill you! It's not like this mature reaction. Oh, you took my toy away. It's my toy, you know. So that's what happens to us if we don't train ourselves. And it's about training. The age doesn't change, but the programming evolves. Maturity level doesn't necessarily change, but our reactions with guidance can become different in a better way. Das Tachtoin Chitzoni, Das Tachtoin Pnimi, and our starting place being present. I can't change the fact that I'm always relating to the world through my levushim. Based on Tanya in the 3rd chapter, I'm always relating to the world through my levushim. Are my levushim clean? Are my lenses clean? Just another story comes up. There's a couple and they're having breakfast. And the husband, as he's eating his toast, he turns to his wife and says, maybe you should tell the neighbor that when she's putting out the washing, it's never properly clean. The washing's never properly clean. Maybe you should tell her. Maybe you could help her and find a different washing detergent. I don't know, the sheets are slightly grey. And this happens for a couple of days. And the wife is like, yeah, I hear you. And then what happens is he says it on the 3rd day, the 4th day, and the wife goes over to the window and just cleans the window. And when she cleans the window, she takes all the dust off the window, and lo and behold, the sheets and the clothes, they're now nice and clean. We always are relating to life through our levushim. Have we cleaned our lens? That's what Avodas Hashem is. Avodas Hashem is cleaning our lens so we can see life bright and beautiful and clean. And it takes effort, takes commitment. So what can I do? If I could never remove all the filters through which we perceive reality, how can we approach a proper understanding of Hashem and Hashem's creation? As if viewed through an aspaklaria me'ira. if we are unable to attain such a level. So we would think, obviously, I want to be able to see reality, Hashem, and Hashem's reality in the most beautiful way. But how am I meant to do that if I'm crippled? How? I can't achieve the dargah of Moshe Rabbeinu. We're not going to right now. He achieved the final olam haba in this world. We can't get to that dargah right now. We can't. It's impossible. We must acknowledge that we can only see the world through aspak klari she'eino me'ira. That there will always be some distortion in our perception, so that we can do our best to relate to reality as purely as possible. So that's all we can do. I have to know that I'm always relating to life through my levushim, and I want to be able to establish a way, because I can't change this, to try and make it as clean as possible. The clarity that we want to attain is very related to cultivating our awareness and tikkun hamidot. The scientific method provides a good metaphor for a solution. It is an accepted tenet in science that one could never remove all observer effects or subjective biases from the observation of reality. So we must instead control the experimental environment with known values. Since we cannot be certain that, for instance, the temperature won't have somebody is no, come. No, come. Yeah. From here. Sorry for taking away from your Mishnayos here. Scientific.
Scientific is a metaphor for a solution. It is an accepted tenet in science that one can never remove all observer effect or subjective bias from observations of reality. So we must instead control the experimental environment with known values.
That's it, okay. Yeah, carry on.
Okay. Since we cannot be certain that, for instance, temperature won't have an unanticipated effect on our chemistry experiment, we must measure the temperature under which we conduct the experiment and keep it consistent every time we repeat the experiment. Otherwise, we may accidentally do the same thing at two different temperatures and end up with different outcomes, thereby contaminating our results with a variable left unaccounted for.
So this nakuda is that I think I need you to stay here for a minute. I can use the world around me. I can use the world around me and I could learn from the world around me. Again, in education, what we are wanting to do is take steps where the steps are small enough that I can logically link one element to another element. And unfortunately, sometimes when the steps are too big, that I'm moving from one idea to another idea and it's very abstract, I now don't own this idea. So we could use the metaphor of science. And let's see where we're going to go with this. I know where we're going to go with this. Some of you don't, though. Okay, here.
This is how we have to approach our experimental interactions with reality. Since we cannot totally remove the effect of, say, our emotions on how we perceive reality, we must first measure the emotional state in which we encounter a situation so that we can take our perceptions with a grain of salt. We must learn to ground ourselves to observe our physical, emotional, and mental state before we can experiment with the present moment. This is the self-same purpose of cheshbon and nefesh, where we tie our behavior to a consistent metric-based scale in order to observe our trajectory of growth.
So what we're saying here, and we're going to explain it in a slightly different way in a moment, but what we're saying is, I know that I have emotional responses. I know that my thoughts will give me a message. I know that my physical sensations will give me a message. In context of what's going on, can I assess if it's right or wrong? Can I assess if it's healthy or not healthy? So say, for example, a person is having an argument with a loved one and they're becoming very, very aggressive. Could it be that you're just trying to prove your point and you've fallen into your ego because this person doesn't want to help me or hurt me? Whatever may be happening. Can you create, through a checking in, an assessment, where am I? In context, is it healthy not healthy, right or wrong. And the truth is we can. We can have a situation where we can, if we reflect upon it, we can reflect, okay, in this and this and this situation, obviously I shouldn't be doing this. I should listen, I should center myself and hear what the person is saying, whatever it may be. But we can create healthy, context-based metrics, not to lose ourselves. And typically, we actually know this because a lot of us, if we acted a wrong way in our own daladamos, we feel it. We feel icky. I know that wasn't good. We look back, I overdid it. And if we have the courage, we'll apologize. But so many people don't apologize because it takes guts to apologize. But how many times have we done something wrong? I didn't portray myself, I betrayed myself there. So we do this. We're making all of this conscious. There's unconscious competency and there's conscious competency. We want conscious competency. We want to create a language. We want to be able to simplify and codify these ideas to live them out in our lives. So, okay.
The more conscious I am, the more present I can learn to become. What may be called being in the moment. We can be working on exiting our mind and entering the present moment and choosing how to relate to the next experience. A subtle magic starts to happen and I can choose my outcome and own what is going on in my life more and more. My biography so far is not my destiny. The truth is, I can create and recreate, select and deselect new, healthier associations, developing different, better, healthier, and helpful memories, thus allowing my mind more and more to be a place of serenity, joy, safety, and love. I can choose to create wonderful experiences. Part of how we can start doing this is through good, healthy mentorship, surrounding ourselves with serious yet fun friends, and making sure we spend good quality time together. It's important to understand that we're not robots, and our aim is not to repress, suppress, or push to the side our experiences. We're simply allowing our experiences to be what they are and to end when they are over, rather than extending their influence into aspects of our lives that don't need to be affected by them.
So, again, we mentioned this is an akud of sinas chinam. What happens for so many people, they take situations, thank you, very good. You passed. You have your PhD in English literature now. Passed. So what happens is that we are very good if we are not taught to take situations and we overspill them in this area and this area and this area. Just an analogy, a person could be at the bank and they could have forgotten their water in the car and they become dehydrated. And then what happens, they are flustered because now it's late to pick up the kids and they have to go pick up the kids and they're running around. And then when they come home, they're not in the best state. They're hot, they are dehydrated, and then when something small happens, they become triggered. Is that personal? Is that trigger in the house personal? Or did they overflow from several hours ago to now? And this is where it came out. So this nakuda of change and transitioning is our heritage. This nakuda of being present is our heritage. HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepts and expects of us that number one, that the zuhama, that we've been infected and the ruach has fallen to the nefesh and we have an ego self. But Hashem Yisbarach expects from us to work on ourselves and better ourselves and become Bnei Adam. I want to just add in here, this is from a book from 2020, and it just speaks out this idea in a slightly different way that may be helpful. Again, you'll tell me in a minute. The present moment and the now. This was a set of shiurim that became a book. Okay. The living moment often lures us into a trap. We call it so good, so we have to hurry and catalog every move. We try to paste this template over the rest of our life, yet the copy never carries through in the same pulse. Sometimes we can have an experience And the experience was absolutely amazing. And what do? We tried to say, what did I do in this experience? And then we tried to superimpose everything I did in that experience here, and here, and it doesn't work. Something's off. There was I can't remember his name, but I remember reading in a book about swordsmanship, samurai swords. So there was once a sword master, and the sword master had an apprentice. And as the sword master was making this unbelievable sword, the apprentice, by accident, he threw sand in. He thought it was something else, but he threw sand in the mix. And anyway, the sword master became really annoyed. And anyway, he didn't throw out the sword. He took the sword and he worked on it. But something magnificent happened, that the sand did something to the sword, that it created pockets of air in the sword. So when you use the sword, when you were using the sword, it actually produced a whistle. It was very interesting. It produced a whistle. More than that, the angle of the sword in which a person used the sword produced a different whistle. So you had a sword that produced a sound, and the angle in which you used the sword to practice and strike produced a different sound. So people called it the singing sword. Now, what was magnificent about this sword is that the samurai now had a sound to work with in order to really make precise their strikes. Because if it was off slightly, it wouldn't sound the way they intended it to sound, because of the different sounds at the different angles this sword sounded when it was used. Now what happened is this swordsman, he people loved it and they wanted to he said, make me this sort of sword, make it for me. And he tried and tried and tried again. He could never ever replicate this sword. He could never ever replicate it, because this apprentice, at the right time, at the right temperature, with the right combinations of mixtures, produced this singing sword. And the swordsman never ever could replicate that again. Could never replicate it again. But it's actually the same as us. That as we live life, we have a moment. It's a beautiful moment. What are we meant to do? So instead of trying to really hold that moment and replicate it in many areas of our life, a lot of the time, with the knowledge that we have, what do we need to do instead? Trust what unfolds here. Let a breath, let it breathe, let it pass. Let the next thing arrive without force. This moment arrives as a gift, owing nothing to the past or future. Receiving it fully, release it freely. And this is something very important to understand, that sometimes we get so caught up in things. Cheshbonos and more cheshbonos and more cheshbonos. We use the term cheshbon nefesh. It's funny. I remember Rav Shlomo Brevda, Rabbi Brevda, he once said, I think it was the only time he quoted a Zayda who was a Hasidic Rebbe, the Chaim V'Chesed. He said that Cheshbon nefesh is not there to control you. Cheshbon nefesh is there to free you. It's there to allow you to be fully in the moment. So let's read on a little bit. The present moment and the now, from menuchas hanefesh to the aligned now. So listen to this, and this is something I think which is really important, which so many people miss. It's very subtle. The present moment, a moving bridge, just what happened flowing into what comes next. So the present moment is a bridge between the past and the future. The present moment is coming from, so to speak, our nefesh. The now, a constant, unchanging field of awareness, central, ever available. So there's two nakudas. The nakuda of now is only achieved through the gateway of the present moment, which is nefesh. People often try to stay in the now. They skip the gateway, truly inhabiting the present moment. They leave a retreat or a quiet room, they leave the Beis HaMedrash, they return home, and they get triggered. And suddenly they're battling these inner voices. They remain in the present moment when everything around them was quiet and suited for the now experience. What happens is that the nefesh is going to produce, when triggered, because that's how the nefesh works, a reaction. There's a trigger and there's a reaction. There's a stimulus and there's a response. There's a hisayrurus and there's a dachav. So a person's triggered, there's an awakening. In spirituality, which I don't like the term always spirituality, I would change out the word spirituality for a vibrational frequency. A more accurate, ruchnius is a vibrational frequency, not spirituality. Spirituality has odd connotations. Spirituality, ruchnius, the moment you achieve a certain vibrational frequency, there is a reaction in the way that we function. So a person on a high vibrational frequency, living with high vibrational frequency midot, is going to affect the whole area around them. So this nakuda of nefesh, nefesh is the present moment. Nefesh is the present moment. That my mind, my thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations are always going to assess past, future, now. My expectations and assumptions. That's all the animation. Das is behind that. Das is the now. The now is beyond all of that. The now is behind all of that stimulation. It's behind all of that animation. In the now is very, very quiet, even if there's chaos going around a person. The Rebbe Rashab, he was in a state of das. He says, I could be in a room of 1,000 people making noise like anything, and I could be by myself in my mind. He was in a state of das. And what happens, people want to get into the now, and they can go to a meditation retreat, they can do some sort of hisbainanus, and they think, oh, amazing, I've worked on myself. But you are in a sterile environment. This is why Rav Wolbe would say, go do Yishuv Hadas in the shuk. Go to the market. Why? Because you have this reality of the present moment, and you have the reality of the now. The now is das. The present moment is the gateway. The more that we can build a relationship with our nefesh, the better we have the availability to really be in the now. So I just want to read 3 rules, 3 reminders, 3 rules. We have to learn to receive, not to replicate. Sacredness arrives in unique moments. Copying behaviors is chasing ghosts. Allow, don't avoid. Flight from discomfort grows it. Breathing through it dissolves it. Align, don't accumulate. True integration comes from internal alignment, not external checklists. So, obviously there's always a lot to talk about. And I've got a big mouth and I can talk, but I'm conscious of the time. Baruch Hashem, das tachton chitzoni, space, time, people. If I wasn't das tachton pnimi, it would just make me go and go and go and go. But the point is that maybe a few times a day, just stop and breathe. Just recognize where you are. As we said at the beginning, Hashem has given us the most beautiful world. Hashem has given us a beautiful, beautiful world to live in. And Hashem wants us to live a beautiful life. Who has to catch up? We have to catch up. We have to catch up. Humanity has to catch up. We have everything in order to live an exquisite life in front of us. We really, really do. So Be'ezras Hashem, as we're in the 3 weeks and moving into the 9 days, may we, Be'ezras Hashem is Baruch, may we have the availability to be in the present moment, recognizing and validating the nefesh experience. And if we're gifted, to be in the now, Balei Das, this pure alignment. So as usual, please, if you just stop for a moment, what have you heard today? What works with you? What resonates with you? And take it a gift. It's gifts. Take it and make your life better and make your environment better and make other people's lives better. Because you can. It's nice to be nice and it's horrible to be horrible. And take a moment just to break up into pairs. Just, share. What did you hear? A few things. Just talk to each other. A few things. What did I hear? What do I take away? What didn't make sense? What didn't resonate? So talk. And then so we can take a question and take a question afterwards. Yes. Yeah, go on, take it.
I'm very much appreciating everything you're describing. Would it be fair to ask you, I'm imagining that if these are the concepts that you're teaching and you're living with, then you have examples from your life where you use them to get through a difficult situation. And I'm just trying to make this information practical. So if you could share an example of how this plays out when you're actually doing the work.
So for example, let me just ask you a question. In the analogy of the policeman and the surgeon relating to the expectations and assumptions, what's missing in that analogy?
I think I just gave nothing necessarily. I feel like a personal example, and it's leaving the actual work. It's just easier for me to relate to.
Okay, an example that comes is now. Like for example, my reading switched off. So either I can become embarrassed about it and my thoughts and feelings.
Do you need to relate to that embarrassment, or you just skip over?
No, I mean for me it didn't even bother me, but it could.
It
could.
Be.
Yeah, it could be.
What would be the work?
The work would be noticing what comes up and choosing my next action. So my next action was to take Reb Shalom Shachna to carry on reading.
But that sounds so simplified. We all do that.
So but it is simple. The experience of getting to the simplicity is having the courage, so to speak, the awareness. Okay, this is what it is. That nakuda, this is what it is. So at first we said that a feeling can arise and we can suppress that feeling.
So that's what I want to know is how do you know, how is that action, meaning I could see a person in that position doing the same thing, and one person it's conscious for, and the other person it's an unconscious action to alleviate the discomfort. How do you define the difference between being conscious of the discomfort and then working through and then making the conscious choice to choose somebody else because that's the right step, as opposed to an unconscious act of just reaching out for something to take away the pain without even an awareness.
Habata, asking the question, what am I feeling right now in the present moment? What am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling in my emotions? What's happening in my thinking?
And why is the quality different when you do that? As opposed to
because you're now more aware of it. So you can then choose. You do that check-in and you could now choose your next action. Do I want my next action to be this or to be that? But when I'm not aware of it, when I'm not realizing that I am the witness asking the question, the more I ask that question, the more I'm aware, das tachton chitzoni, the moment I make that space and become aware of the space I am in, the people I am with, the time, that already changes the way you interact. You will hold yourself differently. You will present yourself differently. Then if you turn your gaze inside and you ask, what am I feeling right now in my body? Oh, hungry, need to get a drink. What emotions am I feeling? Oh, I'm feeling a little bit edgy, I was just outside, whatever it may be. But what starts to happen is you ask those questions and it gifts you the ability to develop an awareness. And then you can ask, how am I going to now act in this space, in this time, in this place, with these people? Does that speak to your question? Yeah? Okay, thank you. So if you please take a moment if you want, you don't have to, but share, talk, a couple of minutes, and then we'll get back together. If there's any final questions, we'll take those questions. Okay, if I can please ask you to pivot and just if there's any questions that have come up while you're sharing. Anything, any observations?
Is ground yourself, does that mean to be in the present moment?
Yeah, it's saying it more practically, it's feeling the ground under your feet. Even just feeling the ground under your feet, listening and just looking around.
What does that accomplish?
Pardon?
What does that accomplish?
it puts you into a state of das. Puts you into a state of das. Takes you out of your head, takes you out of your, so to speak, your thinking mind, and just grounds you. You're aware of what's going on. How many people I speak to, and like tefillah is just autopilot. There's a halach in Shulchan Aruch. When we come into the Beis HaMedrash, we're meant to imagine that we are davening in front of the cause of all causes, the Beira Olam. So many people I know, it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're right, you're reminding me afterwards. It's like, everything is quick, autopilot, because it's the programming. What we want is, and this is what we said, Hilchos Mezuzah, Perek Zayin, when we kiss the mezuzah, it's to take us out of our thinking nefesh and ground us. I'm transitioning now into a room. That room is asking of me to behave potentially a certain way. Am I ready for that? When I'm in yeshiva, it's not the same asking of me when I've come home to my family. When I'm at work, it's not the same asking of me when I come into, the Beis HaMedrash. When I'm learning with my chavrusa, it's not the same asking of me when I'm going on a date with my wife. But how do you create the ability to shift into what's being asked of you? Transitioning. Change is natural, transitioning takes time. I have to recognize that there is a present moment, and then when I can move through the present moment, when I can recognize I'm always relating to my lenses, aspaklaria shalom me'ira, I'm relating to these levushim, these clothings, and I can own that, I can hold that. Then I can, if I'm gifted, come into the present, come into the now. Come into the now. And a lot of people do work and they're in an environment which is sterile of animation. So it's quiet. It's set up with the music. And then when they go back out, so to speak, into the world of animation with the noise and with the people, they get triggered. And when they get triggered, they lose themselves. They lose that internal silence. What we want to do is to understand we have a nefesh. The nefesh is our friend. We want to upgrade the nefesh to work with everything that's going on in real time and still be in the now, which is an alignment. The horizontal we're using to become completely aligned, neshama, ruach, and nefesh. And we start then to hear in the present moment the baskol. So there could be all the animation in the world, all the noise, all the voices, all of the sounds. And in the present moment I still can hear the drop of insight. I can hear the baskol. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, shta bracha, mazel and hatzlacha, kol tov, kol yeshuas. Bracha ve hatzlacha.